Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to take some time to show you all how I go about watering my Hoyas and my succulent type plants. I know that in past videos you've seen me watering my plants, but in this one I go into a little bit more detail of how I go about doing that and using my water meter and just, I guess, my technique of how I go about watering my plants. Okay, let's get into the video. I let all of my Hoyas get down to a 1 before I water them. This one is a little bit dusty, so I'm going to throw it in the sink and rinse it off while I water it at the same time. I have also not known the Hoyas to be sensitive to tap water. I haven't had any problem, so just going to water it in with lukewarm tap water. And this is one of those nursery pots that the Hoyas tend to come in. It's a larger size nursery pot. So it does have some pretty good drainage at the bottom. So I'm not worried about that. This way is good. I'm just gonna let this one drain here for just a couple of minutes and put it back in its original spot. I also know that some of my plant friends like to wait until they see signs that their Hoyas need to be watered. If the Hoyas need to be watered, the leaves will tend to wrinkle up a little bit and they'll be a little bit more squishy. And this one is getting to that point because it is at a 1 on the moisture meter, and sometimes I will let it go a little bit past a 1 on the meter, but typically for myself I usually just use my water meter to see if it needs to be watered or not. I typically don't let my Hoyas, get to that point to where they wrinkle. I kind of go around to all of my plants and I use the water meter, and if I believe that they need water, then I'll give them water. But everybody has their own way of, taking care of their plants. And this is just the way that I take care of mine. So with the Hoyas, I let them get down to about a 1, maybe a day or 2 past that, and then I water. Okay, she's ready to be put back in her spot. There she be. I know this one can use some water because I checked it the other day. Give that some water. With my Sansevierias, I also let them get down to a 1. As you can see on this one, it still is at about a 3. And I make sure that when I test this with my moisture meter, that I try to get as close to that root ball as possible without damaging any of these leaves. Because right at the root ball is where you're going to get the truest gauge of what the moisture level is. So you can see that just 1 second ago when it was closer to the edge of the pot, it was at about a 3, and right now, looking at this, being that it's closer to the root ball, is between a 3 and a 4. So this one definitely has some time because it's a Sansevieria and they do not like to be soggy at the feet at all. So let me test one more time over here. Let's see what that is. Okay, so on this side you can see that it's about between a 2 and a 3. So this one I would say probably is going to, and you can see where this had some water damage before a little bit. I had a little bit of a rough time with this one in the beginning because when I received it, it was overwatered and it took quite a while for it to dry out. Even when I repotted it, the root ball was still a little bit wet. So it did get a little bit of damage right here, but it's doing fine since then. So as you can see, this one is still at a 2. I am going to let this one wait for probably about another week. These guys can really handle it. They store water in their leaves, and they can go a long time without being watered. This one, I will let it get down to about a 1, and then probably even a couple of days after that, just to be sure that the soil is completely dried out on this guy. So this one does not need any water. This is my Sansevieria Moonshine, and as you can see, this one is also close to a 2. So this one I am also going to wait on before I water it for a couple more days. And if I get it close to the root ball, these guys, I also try to be careful because you get these new shoots coming up, and when you put the water meter into the soil, you want to be sure that you're not hitting a new baby. So, and as you can see, as I moved it around, now it's closer to a 4. So this one, I'm going to let it get down to a hard 1 before I water it with all of my Sansevierias. Okay, so with this Sansevieria here, this snake plant, this one is in a terracotta pot. And if we look at the meter, hopefully you guys can see that. This one is still between a 2 and a 3. So this one has about, probably at least, at the very least, it has about another week before I'll water it. With my aloe, I let it get down to a 1 on the meter, and I'll water it. And also, I was going to mention, and I forgot, and now that it's in my mind, when I water my succulents, I guess it all depends, but with this one here, I didn't give it a lot of water. I don't completely saturate them. I give them just enough, just a little bit of a drink. Also with my Sansevierias, my snake plants, I do not completely saturate them. I just give them a really good drink is all. Okay, so this is a succulent dish that I have. And as you can see here, this guy is between a 1 and a 2. So I'm going to wait on him for a couple more days until it gets down to a 1 or past. And then I did water both of these around the same time. So this one is between a 1 and 2 as well. So I'm going to wait on it for water. This one here is my Gasteria. It's at a 1, and I think it's been at a 1 for probably just a couple of days. So I'm gonna water this one down onto a lower shelf so that you could see a little bit better. And again, I'm not going to completely saturate it. Just a little bit of water there. And it's in a smaller pot, so it really doesn't take much water anyway. And then a little bit of water on this side as well. And that's it. I will let it completely dry out in between the time of when I next water it. This one is also in a nursery pot inside of this cashpo, so there is water that drained out in there, so I'm going to want to be sure that I empty that and not leave it sitting in the water. Macrophylla does not need water because I gave it water just the other day, so we're good there. Now this Hoya Crinkle 8, let's see. This Hoya Crinkle 8 is a little over a 3, so I'm going to be waiting for probably a good 4 days or so before I check this one again. So here's another little succulent dish that has some kalanchoes, and I think that might be a Graptivaria or something like that. I'm not quite sure the name. But anyway, we'll check this one to see where it's at. And this one looks like it's between a 1 and a 2, so I may just wait on this one for a couple of days. Let's check a different area. Let's check in the middle here. So yeah, we could see that this one is on a 2. So I'm definitely going to wait for probably a good couple of days just to let it get down to a 1 before I water it. Here is another one of my Hoyas. This one is a Hoya carnosa compacta, a Hindu rope. And this one is between a 1 and a 2. So I think I'm going to let this one go for probably just another 2 days or so, and then I'll water it. And you know, since we have this here, we might as well just check it in a different spot. And here we see now that it's between a 2 and a 3. So I'm definitely probably going to give this probably close to a week before I water it again. So that's how I go about watering my Hoyas and my succulent type plants. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content of my videos, please subscribe. Have a great day, my friends. Bye-bye.